Hey, Kodiak here, and today we hit tribe level 3. Continuing this little series, the first thing I wanted to say is these tribe bonuses actually do 100% work. Um, the problem is, for example, this tribesman capacity, it says plus 10. Well, that doesn't really do anything effectively because my personal capacity was 50, and if the tribe goes from 100 to 110 or 100 to 105, it doesn't do anything, right? Because I'm the only person in the clan and the only person is capped. So what I did was is in the settings I actually reversed this. So I set my personal cap at like 100, and then what I did was is I set the clan cap at 50. So that way now the clan cap gets boosted up to 60, which we can see here. So I will be able to recruit up to 60 guys because that's what the maximum amount that the clan will have. And then as that gets boosted up even more, I'll be able to recruit more guys. So that's the first thing to get to. Continuing on to the journey, if you remember the last time we left off, I was at a shitty little hut over here at this lake. I had about 6 guys, and we were looking to move to our future home, which is where we're set up right now. The first thing I did was I came over here and ran the Ancient Ruins dungeon. The Ancient Ruins dungeon is relatively easy comparatively to the rest of the game. Maybe a little bit overwhelming at first. Again, I use the Conqueror Mask to invis my way past the bronze level opponents right into the robots, and the robots are, kind of a gimme as you see in the video. I also was completely overweight and literally ended up walking out slowly, using invisibility to bypass again all the guys and kind of get back to it. Got all the way back, and wouldn't you know, portals require stone bricks. And here's the problem with stone bricks. First of all, stone bricks are unlocked at level 30, and I was like 18. So that's the first problem. But the second problem is that in order to get that to that point, to advanced building, you actually have to unlock production base, and production base requires tribe level 3. So I wouldn't be able to make stone bricks to make a portal regardless. So I was a little bummed out about that, and I actually started moving my guys over here manually. It wasn't a problem. Again, we kind of planned for this, a contingency regardless. I had an alpaca. I had only 6 guys, so that's 2 trips worth of guys. Everyone was able to carry 100. The alpaca's carrying around 400. I only had about 1,000 weight of stuff. Works out great. So first trip, went over, placed a bunch of foundations, placed a bunch of chests, dropped the guys off, then repeat the process and then come over there, and basically we were living over here. This is definitely Jaguar country, but it is by far my favorite base location overall, in terms of low tier. So like if you're going to set up in the rainforest, this is where I would set up. If you had one base in the rainforest, this is it. First of all, you're really close to 2 ruins that are basically a free green crystal farm nonstop. But you also have this third ruins, which will have 2 chests because it has an outcast leader. Outcast leader will also drop worship containers, letting you farm bosses later on. Down the hill, you have copper. Down this hill, you have tin. So it's kind of perfect. You can just kind of like, pop on down, grab the thing, pop back up, pop on down, pop up. Of course, you have to deal with jaguars in the way, but but at this point in the game, you should have mostly bone gear from the weapon masters, and you should probably even have some beast hide that decent enough durability to go ahead and survive it to come on over here pretty much right away as soon as you get those guys down. So pretty good area. The other nice thing is long term, it doesn't really matter where you go, but the nice thing for this one as well is that this is also on the path that I plan to do the ropeways, which we'll hopefully see in the next kind of update video. I will be set up at my final base location long term, and then this base will turn into more of a farming base. So I kind of like that for the ropeway purposes. Long term, it's also relatively close to the claw camp, so you can just come on down the hill and come up here to claw, or you can take a portal and go over there. But like I said, if you're on a busy server or something of that nature, don't worry about it. The ability to portal, you can basically take a portal from here up to the Rift Valley portal. There's more copper here than you could possibly fill a giant llama with. Same thing, you can take another portal down to here, and there's more tin than you can fill a giant llama with. So, like, don't stress it, because you're basically going to port into an area, mine it all out, and then portal back to your base, wherever that happened to be. Being on a single player server, though, free reign to pick wherever you want. So, we set up over here. I basically got up to about bronze weapons and kind of like a temporary housing setup as I kind of decided what I wanted to do. And I got my first invasion. And how the invasions basically work is there is basically a cooldown, countdown, not a cooldown. It's literally, this is a countdown to when I will be invaded. The amount of fever I have doesn't matter. I am curious though, like if I hit 8 million fever before this timer, will I get a second invasion? I don't know how that works yet, but I am curious about it. But I basically got invaded, and I am playing on full power. And the problem with playing on full power is there turns out there's an invasion multiplier that scales the invasion to your level pretty high. On full power, it's set to actually 1.5. So, for example, I was in my 20s. I was getting invaded by level 35 guys. And I didn't even realize it at first. I charged in. I did like a terrorizing lunge, leapt in, stunned a bunch of guys, and I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, wait, all these guys are 35. Oh, and immediately got clapped. So that kind of set me off on a bit of a spiral, a little bit of a distraction to set up an actual base and an actual set of defenses. Started out by expanding the base building here, really just expanding, redoing the floors, redoing everything, kind of get like a big circle building to kind of work with. While I was doing that, I was building barriers and set up barriers around the camp. I did run into one issue over here where that is technically in the ruins where that wall is. So I did have to turn on build anywhere. I don't think it really matters single player, but if we were playing this like on a group server or something, I would just basically move my base up a little bit higher here. I don't like that because the terrain is a little bit more uneven up there, but you can deal with that if you don't have the ability to tweak that setting and do that. The other thing that I did was I noticed in that first invasion, I was getting absolutely destroyed in terms of like my base. Wood has like no HP, like 1200, man, like 2 hits, and they're destroying walls and everything else. Well, these larger walls have 12,000 HP. So I surrounded my whole little circle base with those walls. That worked out really well. I also put down these roadblocks, and basically when I do the second invasion that came later, I had a bunch more roadblocks to kind of funnel them, but we'll get into that in a minute. So after that invasion, like I said, I kind of had to build up my base. So, I spent a lot of time at the base, we're gathering resources. I have these guys working at these collection camps to bring in resources automatically. Another big thing is that you have tribe overall management. This is a new feature. This works on every setting and every mode. But this is where you can basically limit it. And this is really nice to limit production, because then they're not constantly, even if you don't have like a converter yet, you don't need a converter. You can just say, hey, only bring me 12,000 vines, which they will actually throw away the vines and then bring in the other stuff still. So that actually works out pretty nice. Like you can see, like they're still gathering out here. Like, this area is cleared. Like they are clearing these areas because they're still gathering the other resources. The difference is that they're basically they're throwing away the resources that are beyond that gap. So that's definitely nice. You can do this, and I have a couple of chests that are just like they're like fiber, vine, and thatch all together. That's not a problem. That one large chest can handle 30,000 like that pretty easily. So you don't need a ton of chests, and you don't even need a chest for every single material with that type of a setup. You can kind of limit it for that and not worry about overproduction problems or having to throw away stuff your storage is filling up. So that's definitely been very good. Once I kind of built up, I eventually started looking for characters, because you want to get your 120 crafters, your crafters with the 10% additional quality. So refined tool, refined armor, weapon enhancement, things like that. Those are all those are mostly Flint exclusive. So I'm hitting up the Flint camp here. I'm hitting the Flint camp up here. Leveling up my golden legend mask all while doing this the entire time. Pulling in more resources. So it's like, I need a little bit more copper. I need a little bit more tin. You go down to get that. It's kind of that mid game. That's real easy to just kind of get stuck in a loop of, clearing these noob camps, going and get more bronze, clearing these noob camps, building a little bit up at your base, getting a little bit more, kind of that. It's really easy to get stuck in that loop in this game. And certainly I was in it for a little bit. But I also managed time. Once I did hit 25, I was able to get a Panther saddle and take my Panther and explore. So we came down here to the mangrove. We went ahead and explored this area. Next, we got Rocky Bottomland. Then Pit Hill, which unlocks the Fang Camp. We're grabbing portals all this way. Grab the wilds. Grab the wetlands. Get more portals. And, of course, we unlock the Fog Frog portal. So we kind of unlocked this next little area. You can see this is all really like 20 to 30-ish range. So that kind of works out really well. This is all bronze gear. We, of course, also have River Valley and Rift Valley. Those got unlocked for our quick portal. We eventually were able to get a portal because of a merchant. So there are these things called traveling merchants that will pop up at your base. And when you're at T2, you'll notice here at the tribe upgrade that this says wealthy household level 3. That's the level of merchant that comes. So I was having wealthy household 2, and wealthy household 2 had merchants that were selling stone brick. So like you can't buy stone brick like really early on, but like once you're at tribe level 2, you can actually get that stone brick going. So whenever you see a wealthy merchant or traveling merchant, immediately drop out, buy that stone brick. That actually is what gave me the stone brick to actually get a portal up and running, and kind of getting that going and being able to travel around a lot more easier to the various locations. Eventually, I kept working on progress, keep doing on stuff. I got up into my mid-30s. I got my second invasion about that point. I kind of waited to see if the invasion would scale still or if it would stay the same, and sure enough it scaled, no problems. I was in my 30s and the guys that were spawning were in their 40s, but this time we had a much better defensive setup for things. In addition to the barriers that were set up, I had a lot of these roadblocks kind of deployed and setting up a big funnel. I basically collect all those when I'm not, but then basically guys were coming in, running in through here, they're all funneled in. They got to about here, and now they started dying. So, like, all the guys were basically dead at this point by the time they got to here. Only the elite was alive, and the elite kind of came up, and then it got to about this point before it was mobbed and killed for the final one. So I'd consider my base defenses to be rather automated at this point. I do have to set that up every time. I am also concerned because... So how the invasions work is they spawn at the closest POI to your base. Or a close POI to your base. So, for example, in this case, they're spawning at this ancient ruins the last 2 times, but they theoretically could spawn at this ancient ruins or that ancient ruins. So, I do have to kind of watch the angles, but that's why I've been tearing down the roadblocks, is because I may have to set up a completely different angle instead of them coming in from over there. Like, they might be coming in from over there, and then, now I need to maze them enough to get through enough punji sticks till they die. Same thing with over there is kind of the same setup. So hopefully it'll be easier now that I have bronze pegboards, but definitely something to consider when you're at the space location. There may be different multiple angles. You want to kind of keep adaptable to that. So as I said, after I beat that second invasion, it was like, okay, it's time to go take on Fog Frog and get to level 3. It's definitely a little time intensive if you don't have any of the resources. So for example, you want an antidote, you want poison proof on your armor. So, you have to get rubber. Rubber comes from chests at the mangrove rainforest down here, barracks. So you get rubber down here. That'll let you make the mods, and then you got to make antidote. Well, the antidote takes plant essence, which takes sulfur, so you have to come down and mine sulfur. and then you have to go make the actual antidote, which takes phosphate. So now you're getting phosphorus dust, and so you have to go mining a couple of times and bring back piles of ore back to the base. Eventually, I got my antidotes up and running, and then I was able to go do Fog Frog. Fog Frog, pretty easy fight. I wasn't really expecting much. I kind of played around a little bit with bow. I played a little bit around with melee. It's really not that bad. Basic version is never going to be too difficult. The higher versions, the whole area is poison. So, and that's pretty much it. At that point, I was pretty much tribe level 3, and we were kind of done with that adventure. Next up, I probably want to move to my next area once I have enough stone. This will be more of my end game base long term. Like, while this is a good farming base, so like we'll keep this for farming. Long term, I'm actually going to have a nice stone base set up here west of the ape. I really had this in my other single player run. I really enjoyed it. Long term wise, like I said, with the ropeways, is I can actually set up here at the tin, come through the base at the base, grab copper. So 1 tin, 2 copper, then keep coming up. And then there's a bunch of coal coming through here. So there's coal mines all over the place. So we'll pick up coal here, probably about 4 different coal mines or production bases. And then we can send 1 or 2 of those back to this base to power this bonfire permanently. And then we can send the rest of the coal onto the main base to power that bonfire and iron production and everything else long term as well. So that'll work out really nice. And then that same ropeway, because you want one big daisy chain of ropeways that feed to the different locations. So it'll basically loop up here, come on down, and then loop down from here down into the iron ore, and then this other iron ore. But I think you're only allowed 10 ropeways on default, so that'll be like 1, 2, 4. At that point, we're talking 7. So we'll only pick up probably 3 of these iron ropeways, or 3 of these iron power mines. And that should be a pretty good ratio, because then we got 3 iron, 2 coal, and then 2 bronze and 1 tin, kind of for anything that we need for any type of tin production, such as plates and whatnot down the line. So overall, that should work out pretty well. But like I said, the T3 actually is pretty involved. You have to go all the way up and get an ostrich mount. So that means you have to get up to the desert. It's quite involved. I may make a video prior to that if we get to a point where, like, let's say I set up at the other base. We might do that. I also have to work on getting a body. Now that we have training grounds, we can actually start to merge bodies together, merge traits together. I can set up my perfect crafters. I can set up all my stuff. It gets to be pretty involved. So there's a lot to do with this next year. This is the meat of the game by far. As much as a trap as the rainforest can be, this is the real progression. There's a lot to do. There's another mask. There's all sorts of stuff. Of course, there's the desert. There's the whole mid tier of like the alpine forest, and otherwise that's all iron tier as well. So there really is quite a bit in this iron tier of going from like 35 all the way up to like 50ish or so, to really progress and kind of do things. So definitely quite a bit of game there. I don't know if I really want to wait all the way to that point to make kind of like a recap video. So I might just do it when it makes sense. As always, I'm going to be recording as I do individual new tasks, whether that be going after a particular dungeon or going after a particular boss, and recording that content and just kind of going through all that. I generally don't keep the mic on for that type of stuff because it's just, you can just watch and do that. So, all right, that should be it. A recap. We'll see you in the next one.